And forget. Okay.
All right. It is 6:39. This is the meeting of the Community Safety and Social Justice Committee. Okay, I'm sorry. Now I have the wrong agenda up. I don't know what's going on. Hold on one second. So we are meeting virtually, Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, extended through June 30th, 2027, the ability of public bodies to meet in a fully remote or hybrid manner. Members of the public who wish to access the meeting may do so via Zoom or by telephone. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Okay, so we have a quorum because there are four of us. Lisette said she would be a little bit late. All right, so I'm gonna go through the agenda, then we'll do announcements, previous minutes, any member reports, public comment, Crescent DEI updates, and again, I don't think DEI is here because they are at the Human Rights Day celebration, so they did send a packet. Budget discussion, town council debrief and possible next steps, committee charge review, Rob, youth empowerment, retreat planning, public comment, and items not anticipated. Does anybody have any announcements? I'm not seeing anybody. All right. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes, or would we like to adopt them as written? And we have minutes for November in the packet as well. Any changes to the November minutes?
I
I
move
don't
to
have any.
adopt them. Oops, sorry, Avril.
No, I was just saying I don't have any.
So there's a motion to adopt the minutes. Is there a second?
I second.
All right, we're going to take a vote. Erica,
Yes.
Everald,
Aye.
Deborah,
Yes.
and I am a yes, so the November minutes pass. Member reports.
So I guess, and we can talk more about it. But Allegra and I did meet with Anna. What is her last name, Allegra?
Devlin Gothier.
Yeah, we met with town councilor Anna Devlin Gothier.
Gothier.
Um, uh, a few weeks ago or maybe a week ago, and just around like our charge, and I know it's on the agenda, but so we'll report out then. But just to say that it was a good meeting, and it was very helpful. She had a lot of really helpful strategies in terms of how we can interact with the town council, but we'll discuss more when we get to the agenda item.
Is she our liaison?
She is
Who?
not.
Okay.
Heather Holla-Lord still is our liaison. I believe in January, after the new council is seated, they usually will reach out to ask if we would like a liaison and then try and match counselors to the committees.
So, Everald, I think you weren't at the meeting. It was during the town council meeting. And we were having different discussions with the town councilors. And so, in terms of how we can get more speedier kind of response for them so that we can get on the agenda on the town council. And so because we were very aggravated, obviously, in terms of how long, one, it took for us to even meet with them, since the last time we met with them was in 2022. And then when we did decide to meet with them, how long it even took for us to get on the agenda, because remember, it was months of myself and Allegra contacting and then, Lynn finally outreaching, and then we had to have two pre-meetings and so on and so forth. And so while we were having that discussion in the middle of the town council meeting, then Counselor Anna, and I'll just say Anna, ended up saying that, okay, one of the ways could be we might think about possibly changing our charge if we wanted to do that, to even if we wanted to like include a town councilor as part of our committee or what have you. So it was just kind of ideas that she was having. And so based on that, then myself and Allegra actually reached out to her right away and said, "Hey, I'd like to follow up on the idea you had." And then I reached out to Allegra because Allegra kept me in the loop. Then I reached out to Allegra and I said, "You know what? Let me also attend that meeting because it would be good for us to meet with her and discuss different strategies in terms of how we can, our group can make sure that we're more kind of present for the town council and how we can meet with them on these important and critical issues that we deal with." And so that's why then we met with her. Okay, so that's the background. And then we'll report out when we get to the agenda item.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Erica, I think you have your hand up.
Yes, two things. One is I did email Angela Mills, and she gave me an Excel spreadsheet just of two new applicants, and I share that with you, Allegra and Deborah. I haven't heard in terms of what we want to do next, but I don't think they're all the applicants that you thought might be on there, Allegra. And so maybe we should do a little bit more recruiting before we think about setting up interviews with them. So just something to consider. And then the second thing is I attended the League of Women Voters presentation by the Recreation Department on youth-driven community programming. So if anybody has any questions about that, just to say that a lot of their programming was ARPA funded, which I'll do a really quick, what was included in that: free summer youth swim lessons, Culture City sensory inclusion training, equipment lending library, games and activities for community events, morning movement and mentoring program, Rise Youth Leadership Program, and the Biz Camp. So one of the questions I had was, how is that going to be sustained since ARPA funding is actually going to end in 2026? I was told that the morning movement and mentoring program is actually part of the town budget, $45,000. With Rise, it's a free curriculum because it's a national program. What they have to pay for is food and the rental space, which I think bumps into our goal is to have a youth space, specifically for youth of color. But a lot of the youth who are part of these programs are youth of color. And the Biz Camp, my understanding is that DEI is doing taking up some of that in terms of continuing that. But if there are any questions with regards to, the second question I asked was, how is this quote unquote youth driven? And the response was that they listen to the youth. And then they try to respond to that.
Yeah, that's not youth driven. But I hear you.
So anyways, the other thing too is that there are only two of them who are a director and assistant director, which seems that all of our programming here in the town that really can impact community and intergenerational work seems to be really on a shoelace, which is just really too bad. So I think we have a vision for something more comprehensive and sustainable. So more to discuss in terms of our goals.
Mm-hmm. But it is interesting though that the two programs that involve the police are the ones that have town budget connected to it, which is the two programs that you said, Rise, and the other one that has police members as part of it. And then the other ones are ARPA funded. So, which for me is concerning, because I'm still not sold on those two programs. I have heard some positive things about it, but I still am very wary in terms of what is the end goal with those programs and what's the information that's being shared in those programs, especially with police members being part of it. So but it's interesting because I'm like, okay, we've been talking for years about establishing the Youth Empowerment Center and finding a center, a space to establish the center, but yet the town has been able to find, permanent funding for the two programs that has police collaboration and our center, no funding, as we asked town manager about it, he said the funding's there, whatever that means, but yet no center has been established. So, for me, it's concerning.
Everald.
Um, maybe there's an opportunity to invite someone here who is involved with RISE and, get some information about what that is and see if there's any opportunity to collaborate, CSSJC take some, like participate in something or just fully understand and maybe, if RISE has money and we're trying to get a youth empowerment center, maybe there's an opportunity to build from that and see what we can be born out of that if, so
Yeah, I
I
would
don't know
like to
who's in,
get it. It would be a good idea to get Rise and Morning Movement representatives from both of those programs to come and talk to us. I would welcome that.
Just to follow up, I mean, I think Ray Harp and Becky Demling, I'm sure would love to come and talk to us as well. So if you want me to follow up with them and ask them to come, certainly. But I just want to clarify, ARPA funded all of these. What I asked is, ARPA's ending, how is this going to continue? And so the only place where they said there was a money in the budget from the town was the the mentoring morning program. Rise, because it is a free curriculum, what they have to come up with is funding for a space and for food. They're not sure how that's going to happen, but so I'm not clear if Rise has money that's going to continue.
Okay.
Yeah, and just very quickly, because you had asked what it was, it's Saturday mornings from for a 6 to 10 week program. It focuses on youth leadership, diversity, and anti-racism education, and they have about 8 to 10 students who participate in that, and it's about 45 to 60 minutes structured lessons in chosen topics, and they use the national curriculum, and the focus also is on the use of increasing race relationships through sports and advance social justice.
Mhm.
Thank you. Everald, do you still have your hand up?
I'm sorry, I do not.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't sure if there was more. Okay, so Erica, I think that would be great if you could take the lead on reaching out for a future meeting with them. I don't think we have. I know the league. I know Martha is on, so maybe she can correct me during public comment, but I know some of the members of the league that were involved with the racial justice report are doing the civic leadership, and I don't remember if they might be available in January to come talk about their report. I think that's what was said to me. Are there any other reports from members? All right, then we can move on to public comment. During the public comment period, the chair will recognize members of the public. When called on, please identify yourself by stating your full name, preferred pronouns, and residential address or district. Residents are welcome to express their view for up to 3 minutes at the discretion of the chair based upon the number of people who wish to speak. No speaker can cede their time to another speaker. The CSSJC will not engage in a dialogue or comment on a matter raised during public comment. So I apologize because I already broke the rules. But if anybody would like to make a public comment, you can raise your hand and I will, you can talk. Oh, I did not mean to raise my own hand. Okay, Martha has her hand raised.
Hi, Martha Hanna from District 5, since you mentioned me and the the Judy Brooks series. Just thought I'd comment. Uh, Deborah, I think you might be interested in just viewing the YouTube of that uh, Judy Brooks series. It's on our League of Women Voters website. If you go there, it's under Judy Brooks series, and youth empowerment, I guess it's called. Because I think that then you would at least know what they presented and see their take on it. But Ray and Becky said they would welcome the opportunity to talk with various groups. And I was thinking that it could possibly be that some of our local churches that have youth groups might be interested in hearing their presentation. I personally don't have any direct connections, but if any of you thought that that would be a good idea, you might want to follow up. And yeah, the morning movement is being supported by the town because it's a very broad program. It involves 60 to 80 young people that manage to get their act together and come to school at 7 a.m. to have preschool exercising, sort of release their energy, and then have mentoring, help with homework, and so on. And it's had very positive results. And a lot of the former students are, clamor to rejoin even after they've passed the kind of the eighth grade. That's the prime time, and so on. So I think you would find it interesting to listen to the presentation and then see what you want to do to follow up. So on. And I would also like to say, if any of you people have suggestions of topics for our approximately monthly Judy Brooks series, we'd love to hear about it. Because, we, have to just brainstorm for ideas each month, and we really don't have them planned yet for 2026. So please do give us your ideas. And Allegra, if you said you wanted any of us to come to a meeting in a formal way to talk about any of the things in our report, we'd be happy to try to arrange that.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, welcome, Lisette. Glad to see you've made it home safely. We were just at our first public comment period and not seeing any other hands. I think we can move along to CRESS and DEI updates. I guess I'll share my screen and do the DEI update that way. I won't be able to answer any questions, but I don't know if Camille might have any secret answers for us. So let's see. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. The DEI department update from yesterday for today's meeting. The department is continuing staff trainings last month. This month's topic is merit, excellence, and intelligence. So MEI versus DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. The department has changed the framework for these workshops with a 101 training and a 2.0 more in-depth training to meet the needs of all town staff. The department will have completed 5 departments: Senior Center, CRESS, Health Department, Recreation, Amherst PD, and Jones trainings by the end of this year, with 4 more to complete by the end of the fiscal year. The department will hold youth empowerment programming events this winter. We're organizing a reality fair for middle and high school students on Wednesday, February 25th, which aligns with an early release day in the schools. The goal of the event is to introduce students to financial literacy in a hands-on, engaging way. Participants will be assigned to a hypothetical job and salary, and then move from station to station making real-life choices. This short video gives a helpful overview and shows how the event typically works. and it's a reality fair from Marlboro High on YouTube. The department helped host with the Human Rights Commission, ARMS, and Amnesty International Human Rights Day today with a community reading and student-led discussion of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights articles. And for those of you wondering, ARMS is the Amherst Regional Middle School. The department hosted the second Becoming Beloved Community conversation in a community workshop from Quabbin Mediation, training active bystanders. This community workshop teaches how bystanders can interrupt harmful situations and generate positive actions instead of remaining passive. Looking ahead, there will be on January 20th from 5 to 7 at the Bang Center, a community conversation on racial healing, part of the Becoming Beloved community series. This national observance held on the Tuesday after Martin Luther King Day centers on racial healing, truth-telling, and collective action. Save the date for the Global Village Festival, April 11th, 2026 at the high school. So that's exciting that will be another event that they're doing. And then there's the DEI newsletter. All right. So those are the updates from the DEI department.
Camille, is there a way, and I think I had mentioned it to Philip, but maybe you can connect with Philip to just include the DI newsletter too, because I know you include the Crest newsletter in our packet, but it would be good to include the DI newsletter in the packet like every month, because Philip always sends it to us a few days before our meeting, but it would be good so that the community sees it, because I know a lot of community members, even if they're not attending the meeting, they're either looking at the recording or they're looking at our agenda. So it'd be good to kind of have the DI newsletter in our packets on a like just a consistent basis, just include it and at least we have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Make note.
I was wondering if you had any idea how many people ended up attending the bystander training.
No, I do not know. No, my brain is like going 18 to the dozen. So yeah, no.
All right, so shall we move on to Crest updates then?
Well, I mean,
Or-
the only other thing I want to annotate in terms of the activities that they're doing is I'm happy that they're doing this like Human Rights Day. I guess it's today. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't know if it was, maybe it was publicized. I didn't see. I know things have been busy and stuff, but that obviously is a great thing to go to. And obviously we had our meeting, so we wouldn't have been able to be at both places at the same time. But for me,
So
it's pivotal. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so it was on the town's website and also it was in the newsletter. And if I'm not mistaken, some of the other things, it has been publicized by Samantha, the communications person on
All right.
social media.
All right, that's good. So that then, yeah, next month we'll get a kind of a numbers in terms of how many people attended. Hopefully it was well attended.
Okay.
But for me, the message that I want is so DI is sending out this message, which is great around human rights. But I want to make sure that the town is also embracing that, given everything that's going on and the fact that our immigrants are disappearing from our neighborhoods. And there's, I get, notices, that, neighbors and people are disappearing, not necessarily from Amherst all the time, but from Western Massachusetts, and everything. So it's a very high stress time. People are afraid, frightened, and human rights. We're declaring through DEI, which is wonderful, about the fact that we all have human rights, and as humans we have these rights, but these rights are being violated on a daily basis by what's happening to our immigrant neighbors, friends, family members who are just getting snatched up. So I really want to see the town doing more in regards to that. And I understand that maybe, it needs to be done, as I've been told, obviously undercover, possibly, or what have you. I don't know. but I'm just not hearing anything, even if it's, in the background. So, yeah,
We're not hearing
this is,
anything.
yeah.
I
So,
haven't heard anything that hasn't come down. Not even the emails on, I haven't heard anything lately.
okay. All right. All right. Thank you.
No problem.
So are we ready to shift gears to Crest update?
Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't write anything down because I wanted to report I've been very busy working with the town manager, APD, and dispatch on the dispatch protocols. As you know, because you were there, for the town manager agreed to the town council to have Crest on dispatch for the end of December. So we have had multiple meetings. I had written protocols that I sent you,
Mhm.
and three of the protocols for, I'm going to sit there and go, assist business, assist neighbor slash citizen, because that's how it's in APD, and transport. We went over them line by line, made some adjustments to language, and they were sent off to the town manager. Well, he was there for them, and I fixed what was needed, sent to him, and the next thing is to go to KP Law to get them approved. And then we had a meeting yesterday, to go over mental health and well-being checks. And I will be working the next couple of days on those with a very tight schedule goal of getting them done Friday by end of day. So I've been working diligently on those. There has been a lot of ask for changes and language. And one of the things that I want to make note of is that while the police department have stated that to use their protocols, as I'm looking at their protocols, which are from 2020 and 2021, one of the things that I had to know and discussed at great length is that the language that is in policy for police is not trauma informed, nor is it humanistic, and it just doesn't align with Crest. So I've had to take all of these policies, tear them apart, and start again. So a lot of the language, like mentally ill, that is not trauma informed language. So persons with mental health concerns, or people living with mental health qualities of life, etc. So I've had to change all of these things. So this is not a small undertaking. And as I've explained to people before, these policies have been for police and fire for millennia. And for Crest, this is new. And the difference is, other thing is that what we're, so now what I'm doing is taking and writing down what we're already doing and putting it into language that aligns with our mission statement, but is also common language that works with dispatch. So there is a fine line, and I'm trying to work it so that it works for both the humanistic approach, trauma-informed language, also consent-based, because that's a big thing, is making sure they're all consent-based. So those are all the things that I'm working on now. We also, today I met with fiscal to talk about the carryover that we had from the DPH funds that we were given back in October. So we are hiring a program manager, which will only be until June of 2025. The other thing that for the department out of the regular budget is that we are hiring the sixth responder. We are finishing up, interviews are done. reference checks, and now it just has to go to the candidate that we've chosen to decide if they want to come on board. The other thing that you had talked about before was we're also doing some work with youth empowerment. One of the things that with the monies we have, we are also helping sponsor Morning Mentoring Movement Program, the MMMP, because as was stated, they have 60 kids. They have a very limited budget, so Crest will be through the grant giving them 17,200 to support. The other thing is that we are also working on I'm like, I left everything at work. I want to do again in the community, work with the community and have community forum to find out what are the needs of people. We did some of that with the discourse with the Tory research, but I'd like to be able to do it again and do it at different times in different places. So my goal is to be able to do three in the evening and be able to provide childcare. That's my hope, so that we get more people involved. Also, the other one of the last things I was thinking about. Oh, so as far as what Crest has been up to, we have been doing a lot comparative of evictions and working with the sheriff's department. We have had this month alone, we had one. We have another one I think that's coming up. We did one last month. And these are long-standing, difficult ones, elders in the community. So we have been there with the support of the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department contacted us directly to work with these individuals to get them connected to services. The last individual is well known in the community, and we were able to connect them with their family and Highland Valley Elder Services to help them out. We do, as it is included in the packet, the newsletter. And the other thing is that that I talked with Fiscal. I know that you wanted to plan a retreat, so there is money put aside for a retreat. And there are some other programs that we're working on that we just have to figure out how they fit in with the mission of Crest. And that's it.
I'm gonna call on myself if that's okay.
Mhm.
So I had a few things. One is that I'm glad to hear that there's some looking into the language and how sometimes the policies that are already written might not be trauma informed or might not be, I had to do some retooling of assessments in the past to make things more strengths based. And so I guess I wonder on the flip side, is this an opportunity for the police also to look at their own policies as we are pushing for policy review for them to include more person-centered language that is more humanistic, which I think would be in lines with us asking for an anti-racist police department. I think it's all interconnected, so that might not be a question for you to answer, but it might be.
I will say this, as we were looking at these, one of the captains, Captain Young, was talking about that they are going to be looking at their policies also. So they do them periodically. And again, one of the things that was discussed was that a lot of what APD does is mass general law. So, and it is strictly for police. So being able to go through and look at the laws and see what they're required to do versus, Crest being consent based, it changes a lot. It changes a lot on how we talk to people, deal with, individuals. If they're having a mental health crisis, we will never section someone, um, and some of that other language. The other things are like naloxone policy. So it is the policy, the police, that if someone is administered naloxone, they have to go to the emergency room. And while CRESS is consent based, we can't force someone to go. However, the policy of the town or the police department and the fire department is that they have to use naloxone, then the person has to go. So we are in line with that, would be the strong suggestion to go. Because a lot of times, as you probably know, Allegra, that the strength of opioids that is out there, it may bring back their breathing, etc., but they could go right back into, an overdose.
Mhm.
So we can't allow them to leave. And so we haven't had to do this yet, but most things came out of most policies came out of something happening.
Mhm.
So we are anticipating that if this would happen, we would have to call the fire department anyhow. So, it wouldn't be on CRESS to make someone go.
And I mean, they have to be transported by ambulance anyway,
Right,
the fire to
right.
be involved. So I just want to clarify one thing you said about the morning movement program and that
Yes.
some of the grant funding was going towards not that. Is that grant funding going towards CRESS helping to staff the MMP? Or
It's going towards, well, we do have one responder that is going twice a week to MMMP. So CRESS is involved, but there are also costs that are happening for these students that there are 60 students that are there. And at this time, they have a budget of X amount, and they are not able to do all the programming that they wanted to do. So CRESS, this money is going to help them do some more of the programming. So, for example, I'm trying to think, like different events that they're trying to go to. So again, there's 60 students. So the CRESS money will help them to be able to do this. And again, CRESS members or our responders are working with them.
And then I guess my last question was about evictions and what exactly CRESS's role is in that, because to me that seems very coercive and very much in line with law enforcement. So I guess I'm just like,
Yeah.
what is
So,
happening?
so what happens is that when a person is going to be evicted, so say the 16th of the month, somebody's going to be evicted, we get notification of it because they don't involve APD. We get notification of it, and the first thing we do is go out to meet with this person and find out what it is that we can do to support them, be it work with Highland Valley, be it help them as supportive of going to court, help them with other support services. So, and then the other part of that is that during the eviction, we are there to support the person. We are not there as anything else, but just to be there to be of support to this person because it's traumatic. And having somebody that they know is there for them, and also because we've already built a relationship by being there beforehand. So again, if this is happening on the 16th, we find out a week in advance or 2 weeks in advance, then we can continue to go out there to meet with the person and see what other needs they could have and to help them get connected to those services.
So the decision has already been made that they're going to be evicted, and Chris is there just to help the person being evicted.
Yes.
Okay.
So we are there as a support for them and, connect them with the services. Could it be housing or, and a lot of times some of the other things that have happened is that there are people that are being under the threat of eviction, and what we've been able to do is connect them with services to prevent the eviction.
Thank you. Deborah?
So, thank you for the presentation, and like what Allegra said, I am happy to hear around the trauma informed and consent based, and also really updating the language. And hopefully this will be a good kind of informational, educational opportunity for the APD to see that their protocols need to be updated, which is something that CSWG asked for back in our 2021 report, was for them to be able to change this. I understand that there's laws and so on and so forth, but a lot of the times laws, yeah, obligate you to do certain things, but it doesn't still it doesn't kind of control everything that you have to do in terms of like language and different things that can be updated. So a lot of times I think there's this kind of hiding behind the laws to say, well, we can't do anything when a lot of times you can do more. It's just whether you choose to do more, right? So,
Can I just want to interject for one thing? I will say this, when I looked at the policy for, as they called it, mentally ill person, dealing with a mentally ill person, um, the second line of it was talking about the stigma, and it said that persons who are mentally ill are often put in positions. I mean, it was it was not in trauma informed language, but it was saying that there is a stigma to people that are, in their words, mentally ill, and that they should treat them with dignity, and that even if a person is having a difficult day, that if they're yelling and screaming, that they should still treat them with dignity and calmness. So there is language in there that is talking about how they should be doing things, that was really actually refreshing. So just changing some of the language to be more trauma informed, but the language that was in their policy on how they should be handling this was right on par.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, I'm not saying that all of their policies need to go out the window. That's never anything that we've said. What we've said is that they need to update. Some of them, though, we do say they need to be out the window, like, some of the, use of force and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, of course, but what we're asking is that they need to go through their policies line by line and update where needed. I mean, that's basically the what we've been asking them to do, which hasn't happened. So, but anyway, I'm moving on from there because that's, conversation again. And I invite the chief or any of his other leaders or supervisors to come meet with us. Another open invitation for them to come meet with us, because obviously these are conversations we'll have with them when they choose to deign us with their presence. Um, but for me, I have some other questions. So, um, great that we're working on the dispatch protocols, and that the town manager has been working with, the correct stakeholders here in order to get this done by the end of December, because obviously all eyes are on this happening by the end of December, because you know
Hmm.
everyone better believe that come January, we will be kind of blasting it all over the place if these protocols aren't ready. But I do have questions about the protocol. So you did say that there's going to be assist business, assist neighbor citizen, transport, working on mental health, well-being checks. However, for me, and I wasn't able to find the LEAP report, right, that had other kind of like
Hmm.
categories and things like that. So for me, at the end of the day, it's not just, and I hope the town manager is paying attention to this, and that Camille, I know you're working with him and the APD and so on and so forth. It's not just certain call types, it's all the call types that do not involve violence that we're going to be looking for when those dispatch protocols are put in place. So we're going to be very much paying attention and making
Hmm.
sure that it's inclusive of all nonviolent call types is what we want you all, Crest, to respond to. And those should be part of those protocols. So if this is going to be a, how can I put it? Just an exterior, oh, we got it done, and we're just going to put some call types on there so that we can, make sure that the community, gets quiet about this. That's not going to happen. What we're looking
Mhm.
for is what CSWG recommended, which was that CREST respond to all nonviolent call types. So do you think that that's going to happen by the end of December?
No.
Yeah.
These are the ones that, because like I said, I have been working like double shifts working on this because it really is myself and Angel, my admin, who is taking up the charge to do this. And I also have a lot of other things that letting go by the wayside to be able to do these protocols.
Yeah, but I
So,
mean, I get it, but I mean, the town manager, whomever needs to help you all, because obviously this is something that the community has been wanting for now going on 5 years. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? So this needs to happen. I mean, I get it. I appreciate, and I'm sorry that obviously the work is falling on you now because we have the pressure on. But what I'm at the end of the day thinking is about our community members that have been screaming and yelling and urging the town to make this happen. You see what I'm saying?
mhm.
So we're still going to expect, these things to happen. It can't be just a cursory, okay, well, there's this, and then the rest of it is not put in place, though. You know what I'm saying?
And that is why I'm pushing for, the well-being checks and the mental health. Because I think that those are going to be we're one of the things is that due to the fact that we have self-dispatched all this time and people come in and call and email, so the amount of the dispatch involvement has been minimal to this point. So that is why I feel like the mental health and the well-being checks are really a part of this. And I really feel that until those two calls, along with the other three, are put into place, that we are not truly on dispatch. The last call that I'm working on is the nonviolent school, but that is something that I have to also work with the schools on. And right now, the schools will call us directly. Because as you know, they do not have like Springfield Holyoke here resource officers. They don't have the police in. And it was told to me that, unless they have no other avenues, they do not call APD unless they have no other avenues. We do get calls to attend meetings, et cetera, where they feel that people might be, having a difficult time, or there's stuff that they have to talk about that, they want some calming people there to de-escalate. So, but that is something that is going to take some time because again, I have to meet with the schools and
Mhm.
work on that. So that's nothing that is directly anything to do with dispatch.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. Well, we're going to be monitoring.
Mhm.
And I'm happy though that you are insisting on these. Obviously, yeah, these are some of the major ones, but we are going to be monitoring to make sure that the other call types are also happening. Because the point that I made at the town council meeting, which was, supported by the consultants who were talking about, resident oversight board and so on and so forth. Well, based on the fact that Amherst is not ultimately a violent town, which we all understand, ultimately it's not
Mhm.
because it is a smaller town, it's a college town and so on and so forth. However, which means and translates into that means Crest should be having a lot more calls dispatched to them because it's ultimately not a violent town. So that really begs the question as to why it hasn't been dispatched. I mean, again, it does not take away from anything that you all have done to this point. You all have done great, marvelous, excellent work. However, we do still want more, right? Which is you all to be so busy from, whatever dispatch calls are coming that this is the bulk, right, of your work is dispatch as well as, right, people calling in, but it has to be kind of a balance and there has to be, it can't be you all are getting one dispatch call, a month or so on and so forth. We're going to be
Mhm.
monitoring all of those things because, we've been down this road before in terms of like, oh yes, we're going to have
Mhm.
dispatch do this and that, and then nothing happens. You know what I'm
Oh no,
saying?
I truly understand your frustration because I have felt it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I will get to you is the dispatch protocols that I have already worked on so that you can look at them. And again, these are the ones that are already agreed upon. And I'm still, like I said, working on these other ones. And because they are mental health and well-being, I have to change all the language. And again, because we don't operate under mass general law and because we are consent, you know, um, it really is going back to the drawing board and starting from scratch. So, and really, and I think one of the biggest questions from um, the dispatch was, we don't know how you deal with these calls. However, my feeling is we've already been dealing with them. So all I'm trying to do is put, to paper and give voice to what we've already been doing.
Hmm. Okay. And then just to clarify, so you said the program manager position, that's through a grant, right? And
Yes,
so that's going to end in June. I mean, so
yes.
so when is there going to be something put in place for you all to get an actual assistant manager, which is what, we've been seeing that you all should have, is like an assistant manager and obviously more
Assistant director,
responders.
etc.
Yeah, assistant
We're
director,
gonna,
exactly.
the budget hasn't gone out, but we have our wish list. So again, that's going to be on my wish list to bring back the two frozen positions because again, as we are going to more of these calls, I feel like we are going to need more people. Six people
Hmm.
is not going to cover this. And having eight people, we can go back to having Saturdays. Um, and, expanding hours takes people.
Hmm.
So, um,
Exactly. Which is the other, that's the other, like you said, one is to have the staff to be able to now, with this, hopefully with this dispatch calls coming in and things like that. Like you said, you all are going to, be busier and have more to do and obviously you need more people. And then also, as you said, as we've said, we need you all to extend your hours, especially into the evening hours. And obviously with
mhm,
that, you need more staff and you need an assistant director. You know what I'm saying? I mean, all organizations, departments have a director and an assistant director so that you can bounce things off of that person and do all of
mhm.
those things and you all can kind of tag team in terms of things. You're only one person. You can't do everything. So,
I will say this, and I am really, I mean, blessed beyond that I have Angel because Angel has really taken on so much more than just being an administrative assistant.
oh, okay. Well, that's good to hear.
She really, and I mean, taking on, making sure that all the documents are in, doing the minutes for the meeting, setting up for when we are having events. So, and I have to say also, my Crest team, they go above and beyond making sure that the data is all collected, that the newsletter is completed. My cat just pulled down my curtain. Um, oh, and they're each one of them is doing more than just being a responder. They have also taken on another project. So there's so much more that we are doing in this great area than just responding.
Good. And then my last question is just in terms of, I'm happy to hear that you all have a budget for us CSSJC members to have our retreat. But, do you know what that means, what that looks like? Is there a number attached to that budget? For instance, if we get a facilitator, can we pay the facilitator a stipend? Or is this a budget, just for food and materials? I mean, I guess
So
I'm not
that's
sure.
one of the things that I'm unsure of it. I know food and materials is one, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that is covered.
Mm-hmm.
I am trying to figure out because the person that would come in as a facilitator would have to
Yeah.
do the W-9, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would already have to be either part of the town or I'd have to set up the paperwork with Angel ahead of time
Okay.
to go through the proper channels. And those are the things that when I met with fiscal today that I wasn't clear on that I was able to do.
Okay. Yeah, if you can get because as you saw or you heard about the last time, I mean, we will need a facilitator because if we're doing a retreat and trying to work through a bunch of different things, we can't be the ones facilitating the conversation and all of that because it's very distracting. So
Mhm.
we would want, to pay a stipend. It's not anything, it's not a lot of money, but just a little something to tell this person who will probably be spending anyway, like last time was 10 to 1 o'clock, in the afternoon, several hours with us, that we appreciate their time.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so if that's possible, and we
So
know,
those are, and again, those are some of the other things that have kind of taken like a back burner as I'm working
Mhm.
on these
Oh, no, that's
policies. So,
fine. That's fine.
but but I just wanted to let you know that that is something that was included when we went through of what is the things that we wanted was to make sure that everything that was on the list that was feasible would be able to be, funded and funded through June 30th.
Okay, great. Thank you. And again, yeah, hey, focus on the protocols. That is priority number one as far as I'm concerned. Obviously,
A-
that and responding to community
Again, yeah,
members and stuff like that, of course, but that goes without saying. But yeah, right now, in terms of importance, besides responding to community members, like the protocol,
yeah,
so that we
and
can have this on board.
it will be, it was like, okay, can we get this done? I'm like, it will be done. So,
Mhm.
when I say I'm going to do something, I get it done.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Allegra?
Sorry, I had more questions after you
No
talked.
problem.
I know you said you don't section people, so if somebody is in a mental health state, just thinking
Hmm.
about like what a policy might look like, if somebody is in acutely symptomatic with mental
Right.
health symptoms, but they would be willing to go to say like the community behavioral health center for like a crisis evaluation, is that something that you would facilitate, or at that point is that something you have to hand off still to like the fire department or
So there is a CSO clinician
Mhm,
who works as is a co-responder with APD.
mhm,
So when we have had questions about them, we have called. There are two of them. They work two different shifts. So we have called them to come in and give information. Also, we have had people that knew they wanted to go to the hospital, but did not want to go by ambulance, did not want APD to be involved. And the responders have called me, and when I've talked with them, made sure that they felt they were safe, etc. And we have taken people to the hospital. So it goes under it all depends.
right.
And I trust my people. If they feel that they can handle something, then they will handle it. But if it rises to the occasion where somebody else needs to be called, then that would be the parallel response, and we would call APD. And that's also one of the things that's in the protocols is the parallel response.
But I think so. Is your section? It's not a section 35. It's
No, the section
okay.
12,
Section 12.
Yeah.
we don't section 12. Again, because we are consent, we will never section anyone.
So
And we
and
can't anyways. you
Yes,
know.
understand that. So that is also part of my question is what if the person asked to be section, not a section 12, but because, as you're aware, most people, family members, friends, they can go to the court, petition the courts to do a section 35. The
Hmm.
downside of a section 35, if the person's not in court, then the judge will issue an apprehension warrant and the police come
Right.
and get you, what if the person is willing to be sectioned? Um, would you guys help with that?
If somebody asked for help, yes.
Okay.
So
So,
that again, because that's consent based. So if they're
okay.
asking for help, yes. If their family members are saying, okay, we have obtained a section 35. And again, this is only from when, and this is from my knowledge as a clinician working at inpatient psychiatric, is that if a person knows that they have a section 35, and most of them do know, and they came or we met up with them and they said, look, I have a section 35. I know I'm going to go to the hospital. Would you take me? And if we felt that they were safe enough to transport, then yes, we could. However, if the family member said they have a section 35 and the person didn't want to go or wasn't safe, then no. That would definitely be where, on the safety side of it, we would have to call the CSO co-responder.
So this brings up an interesting kind of question for me because I'm still kind of confused about the role of the CSO.
Hmm.
Um, because I think like even the town council members and there's community members, because a lot of times they keep saying, well, there's already a CSO going with the police, so why is there a need for CRES and blah blah blah. So can you kind of really kind of hone in from my understanding, CSO is more the clinician part of
Yes.
it, right? It's
Hmm.
more clinical. But can you, so that our members, can have an understanding, can you kind of, I know obviously it's within APD, maybe you might not know all the information, but how does the CSO first work with the APD, and then how does the CSO work with CRES?
So the CSO clinician is paired up with an APD officer.
Mhm.
Okay, so if there is a call, the CSO clinician and the APD officer go. The APD officer clears the scene, and then the CSO clinician can go in. The CSO clinician also is able to just meet people out in the public, and she is out in the community and knows a lot of the people that have mental health concerns. So, and
So
are unhoused, etc.
yeah, so CSO obviously, yeah, they can be out in the community, but the point of the matter is that, like you said, though, there's a call, APD and CSO go out together, but the APD first has to kind of, like you say, clear the scene.
Again, as I tell people, if the police go out anywhere, they are in charge of the scene.
Exactly.
So if we're someplace and APD shows up, they are in charge of that scene. If they come and see that Cress is handling things, which has happened, they can just step back and be present, you know. However, if they take over the scene, it is their scene. So those are some of the things that we are working on is, what is Cress's role and how can, so that was one of the protocols that I had written was like, how do we do what I call a warm handoff? So if it is, say, we're with someone, and this has happened, who was having a mental health crisis, and we were called first, and I was actually out there talking to this person and realized this was way above a CREST response. Called CSO. The CSO clinician came out and spoke to the person and was able to get the person. I think this time the person went to the hospital.
Okay. So
So,
that's when, so you all, like, let's say if there's a crisis or what have you, what you would do is call CSO first as opposed to calling APD type of thing.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Gotcha. So
So
that, like,
under For the most part, we try not to, again, because we're person-centric.
Yeah.
So unless there is a safety concern,
Hmm.
then we're going to try and de-escalate, use motivational interviewing, and talk to the person and see what it is that we can do at that moment. If it is above what we can do, then we reach out. And even if we start to see, because there are times that we have involved the CSO clinician, um, just to find out what other options we could have.
Yeah. And when you say there's two CSOs working on different shifts, so they work around the clock type of thing, and like they
They
cover
work
like
first and second shift
okay,
on
so
certain
first.
days, and I don't know what days. I've only
Yeah.
spoken to the second shift one like once or twice.
Oh, okay. So it's not that they're available 24/7, but
No.
they're available on certain shifts. And then obviously they'll go out with the APD when it's not appropriate, but when the call kind of
Yes.
requires them to go out. So it's not like they're going out every call type of thing, but when,
No.
okay, okay. All right. Thank you for that clarification.
No problem. I also wanted to mention yesterday, I don't know, I know that there was a couple of town councils on there. Yesterday for MMA, the Massachusetts Municipal Association, I was there presenting for alternative response along with Cambridge and Lynn. And it was interesting in that we all have such different departments. Um, Lynn only operates with their own phone number. They are not dispatched. Um, and Cambridge only operates by dispatch. They're out in the community, but they operate by dispatch. And then there's us that does both. So it was really interesting to have conversations with them ahead of time and also about what all the differences are between Crest, Lynn, and Cambridge.
Mm, good.
Can
Excellent.
you say what some of those differences are?
So like Lynn just started in June of this year. So one of the things is that they only have four people. Two people are from the health department, and two people I'm not sure, but they're out in the community meeting in like known places, housing. Lynn has a huge immigrant population. So the two people that are out in the community go out to these places and, are visible and seen and talk to the people. The other thing is also that they go out one person. So Crest only operates as two. Cambridge has a much bigger team. They operate with two to three and always have at least one clinician that goes out with them. So, and then we have us, which are two, and we are citizens, you know.
And do you know how many respondents Cambridge has? Obviously, Cambridge is much bigger, but do you know how many they have?
I think at this time now, I think well, I know when we went there to visit, I think they have 12.
Erica.
I just want to give Camille kudos to get in front of the Mass Municipal Association is not an easy thing. And the fact that you did that actually provides more, I think, support and sustainability for you here. So definitely kudos for doing that because I've worked with municipalities and trying to get on their agenda to do a presentation it's so difficult. It's very challenging. So thank you very much.
Thank you. They reached out and I was happy to do it. And
Mhm.
again, I love my job. I love talking about what I do.
Excellent.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Mhm. No,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you, Camille.
All right. So the next item on our agenda is budget discussions. So there were two letters that were sent to the town council and town manager. One was the general support for Cress's budget, including basically implementing the full complement of programming that the CSWG had originally proposed with its budget back in 2021. And then the other was a budget for our committee specific to holding forums that included simultaneous translation in multiple languages and the retreat request. I've just received the generic, like, I got this email, received the email response from the town council, but it does sound like at least perhaps some of the budget request for the retreat is going somewhere.
Can I just ask you a question? So I would really love to get together with you and your co-chair to talk about your forums because that's exactly what I'm trying to do.
Mhm.
So, and there is the budget for the forum. So if we could work together to figure out how to make this happen, and get the most amount of people. So I would really appreciate, all of your assistance to make this happen.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things that Ashley and I have forgotten. Good thing, Allegra, you brought that up, and Camille, you were talking about it, because that's one of the things we can even collaborate and kind of, do it together. You know what I'm saying? Because
Mhm.
then you have, obviously your network, we have our network, but it's just like if we're going to do it anyway, because we're planning to do some forums and you're planning to do it. And I think we had done that actually with the previous director. We had held some forums collaboratively with Cress back
Mhm.
then, and it worked out really well. So I think that, it would just make sense for us to work together and have as many people as possible at the forums.
That's what I want to do. And also, again, it's that I have put in and budgeted for it,
Hmm.
to make sure that we get the most amount of people to be able to reach those people who can't necessarily come out because they have children, etc. I don't know how that's going to work with the childcare, but
Hmm.
I want to make sure that, we reach those people because as a single parent, I mean, I understand. There are things that you just can't do with your kids there.
Yep, exactly. Okay, great.
Yeah,
So
I think
yeah,
it would be
so
good to brainstorm some more.
yeah, and like maybe we can talk more about it in the next meeting, what you all are thinking, and then we can kind of chime in with what we're thinking, and then we can figure out when we want to do it and so on and so forth. Because one of the things that I do remember from our last, when we had held the forums, but this one was just us by ourselves. I do know that we wanted to go more into the community as opposed to just holding it one at the town hall, let's say, or holding them at the town hall is like to hold them, in the community themselves. So, and I know you all are in the community, Camille. So you also know different places where people are at, and that's what we'd want to do, for this time around, you know?
Right. That is really what I want to do is get out into the community and get their input,
Mm-hmm.
and see how things are. And again, I
Yeah.
think that forums are very important and to be able to collaborate and
Mm-hmm.
get everyone in one space makes it really good.
Yep. Yeah. Okay, great.
Um, so Erica, I know you had emailed saying if we could just kind of talk about the budget request, and I'm not sure if it was a request as to how was it received from town hall or
Yeah, that as well as what is the schedule where we can just keep on showing up and keep on presenting what we want. So I know last spring there was that one finance committee meeting, but it often seems that it's like too late.
right.
Things were already made. I mean, the town manager recommended things, and from my experience and listening to what happened last spring is that once the manager makes a recommendation, it seems like town council is very reluctant to go against it. So where are the points that we can make some, pretty clear emphasis what we expect? And maybe that's also discussion in terms of a retreat about getting to the next new group of town councilors. So right at the beginning, getting to them and doing another presentation about what we expect and what support we expect.
Mhm.
And so Erica, I think to kind of piggyback off that, I do think that that getting in early with the new counselors and kind of talking to them is going to be important. Again, I don't think that there was like much of a response from town council as to say like, oh yes, we're going to do everything you ask. But I think that the finance committee has been kind of trying to refine the budget guidelines. And if they did not vote to adopt them yet, I think that there is a vote coming up soon, perhaps, but I'm also under the understanding that the new council could potentially revisit the finance committee's guidelines. So typically, the town manager presents the budget in May. May 1st is when it's due, and then whenever the next town council meeting is when he does the presentation on it. And then there's a public forum like 2 weeks after the presentation. And during the weeks up until the vote, I think like each department gets to sit down with the finance committee and have those discussions. So again, I'm not entirely sure what the points might be between now and May, but I imagine that there will be opportunity to weigh in during town council meetings at some point. And I don't see Hala in the audience, or Alicia sometimes comes just as a member of the public, but I don't see either of them on right now, but that is something that I think we could reach out, because Alicia has been on the finance committee for this past year, so perhaps that's something that we could ask her about if there's any additional times to get involved or pressure points, so to speak. Yes.
So I know that my new counselor, Jill Brevick, one of the things that she stood for was more transparency with the budget, because I know I've gone to the website and I feel like it's almost like, I don't know, I can't even figure out what departments is asking for what, or what's being designated to what, to even figure out how to make suggestions about reallocating some resources. And we know where we want to reallocate some resources. But I know last year, I think it was something like $600,000 capital expenses for the police. To me, that's, why is it that they keep on getting more and more? And there is not this conversation about where resources really need to go. And not to pick on them, but it was something that was very clear last year. $400,000. I know they said you can't change capital expenses to operational expenses, but just $400,000 could have gone to CRES, or $400,000 could go to our, youth empowerment center, and that is a capital cost. I really think having more transparency with regards to what the budget actually is and what departments are actually being increased in terms of their budgets or what they're asking for is really, really important. So I can definitely, once January hits, talk to Jill Brevick about making sure that the website really gives you a budget that residents can take a look at and can understand.
Yeah, and I think the thing with the budget, because you're right. I mean, there's just so much mystery around it, and what's the meetings that we need to go to, and then like you said, Erica, then all of a sudden it seems like the town manager has made his report, and it's a done deal, because like you said, the town council usually doesn't change much in regards to what the town manager brings up. So is there a way for us to, I don't know if it's to reach out to a town councilor in particular and talk to that town councilor, right? And kind of figure that out. But is there a way for us to get the list of meetings and things like that? You know what I'm saying? That the finance committee is going to have. So what are the different things? I think we need to have that plan, and really for the year, you know what I'm saying? For the entire fiscal year, so that we have that understanding, because a lot of times I feel we're just like hodgepodge, you know what I'm saying? Kind of like, oh, okay, wait a minute, now we got to do the budget, we got to throw it in the budget and things like that. So, and I think it's really, in a way, I'm sorry to say this, but I feel it's purposeful, because this is something that we had said back in CSWG. Because when we first started CSWG, a lot of us hadn't worked with the town. We're not even familiar with town government and town procedures and bureaucracy and those sort of things. And we basically got no training in regards to it, right? And so for us too, we had to learn kind of all quickly in terms of like just for our recommendations, like when we needed to kind of, present so that our recommendations can be funded. But of course, back then there was that charge that was put on CSWG, so there was this more pressure. And that's how we were able to fund like CREST and we were able to fund DI and so on and so forth. But since then, it's been again back into the mystery, the cloud of mystery, and when do these meetings happen and things like that. So, is there a way? I mean, do we know how to kind of get okay, when are these meetings happening, and by when do we need to, communicate with the town manager or the town council, what have you, to tell them about our, the budget needs that we have for these departments that were recommended by CSWG.
I think that's really important, and I think if we start with an ask to an individual counselor, and I do think that Counselor Walker would be a good start in this, just if not for the fact that she's currently on the finance committee, so she might have a better understanding of when the finance committee is actually discussing the budget versus when it's discussing other things throughout this period. So I can certainly reach out to her. And I think it kind of bleeds into what you and I talked about with Anna a little bit. So I don't know if anyone else has any questions specific to the budget process, or if we want to kind of roll into the idea of the charge, and kind of just debriefing from what Anna had told us, if that makes sense for people. And I'm just looking at the time, it's about 8 right now. So just wanted to throw that out
makes
into the
sense.
universe.
Yeah.
Um,
By when are we trying to wrap up by?
I don't think we had a set end time, but I just wanted to acknowledge what time it is. I don't know if anyone has any hard stops or.
Okay.
So do you want to talk about our meeting with Honor? Do you want me to?
Yeah, you can start it and then I
Oh.
can add whatever gaps.
So in our original first meeting at the town council on November 3rd, I think it was, Anna had suggested maybe to look at the committee charge and to see if there were ways to either strengthen the role of the liaison, if that was an appropriate way to kind of have more communication with the town council, or to kind of tweak what it is just that we're doing and what our purpose is for existing, if it felt like we were spinning our wheels. And then there was more conversation during the meeting that Deborah and I had with her about kind of the specific. Sometimes it can be overwhelming to have this whole committee come in front of this whole council and to have these large, broad things that we're talking about without specific actions. And it seems like in those settings, nobody might take the lead on things. So her suggestion was to kind of pick specific policies or specific things to move forward with specific counselors in mind to actually sponsor, whether it's a bylaw that's written or a motion to put forward about a certain item that has come forward. So I'll just use police policies for an example. If we went to one counselor to say, can you sponsor a bylaw? And I'm just making this up. This is not necessarily what it would look like, but that the town of Amherst no longer allows its police department to engage in consent searches or pretext stops, since those are 2 of the recommendations that were in the LEAP report. And we draft the language or whatever, and then we have a specific sponsor go to the rest of the council and say, this is a specific piece of legislation related to this that we can move forward as the town council. Because I think what some of the feedback she gave was that some town council members might not know how to move things forward. They might agree with the ideas in theory, but if there's nothing that they can actually take action on or vote, it kind of just falls away, if that makes sense. And Deborah, correct me if I'm
Yeah.
like mischaracterizing what was said, but
Mhm.
that was kind of my understanding of what she was saying. So, and I do think that, like you said, Erica, some of the incoming counselors have talked about transparency in budgeting, which I think kind of goes hand in hand with some of the recommendations, and have also kind of spoken as champions for some of the CSWG recommendations. So I am hopeful that there will be some more options in terms of counselors to engage in some of these discussions. But then also talking about the role of the liaison. Again, during the town council meeting, there's a period of time at the end where council liaisons are able to give an update on what the committee has been up to, but there's no real formal process for what that's supposed to look like or any template that's the person is supposed to follow. And so if that were something that we could kind of come up with our own template and help whoever the liaison is to craft what they want to present at the council meeting and have that person be more vocal during the council meetings in terms of, giving those reports. And then that could also be a time where the liaison, if not willing to or able to put forward the motion or whatever themselves, could say, CSSJC is looking for a counselor who would support X, Y, or Z. If you want to be a part of that, please get in touch with CSSJC. So I think those were some of the concrete recommendations that I'd written down.
Yeah, and lastly, and Ever, we see your hand, but we just want to kind of get through what we discussed with Anna before kind of taking questions. But the other thing too, she did say, at the end of the day, if there were certain aspects of our charge that we either felt, because obviously the charge was made, a while back, and so maybe there's some things that are still working well, maybe there's things that are not, that maybe we don't do, or what have you, right? Or we want to strengthen, or we want to take away. And she said if we wanted to kind of like update our charge or change it in any way, that, that could be something also that we could work with a counselor. She even volunteered herself. She said that she could, work with us just even to just like look at whatever updates if we wanted, for her to look at the language and things like that. Doesn't mean that she would be the sponsor necessarily, but she would be willing to do, some of those things. So basically a lot of the meeting was around, sometimes, kind of strategy, right? Kind of strategy around how we can actually move some of these things. Because the part that has been very frustrating is the lag time, right? What the council says they're going to do. Because a lot of times when they're in this big group, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to do this and we're going to, do that, do the other. But then as soon as the meeting's done, it all falls apart, right? Then we don't see them for 3 years. So it's like, how do we work with, and we know that there's certain members on the town council that would be very supportive, right, of pushing some of these CSWG and CSSJC kind of mandates that we have, and that, they would be willing to sponsor, some of these. So, and now we're going to have more on the council, when the new council comes on board. So that's why, Erica, even when you are saying, well, we need to kind of get on the agenda right away, part of it is, do we want to do that, or do we want to talk to, and that's why I wanted to bring this after what we discussed with Anna, or do we want to talk to certain counselors and say, hey, let's work on that. We want you to, push this. We want you to sponsor that, and really think about how it is. Because that's for us at the end of the day, there's certain things, right? So DEI, CRESS, youth empowerment, the multicultural center, some of those real kind of resident oversight board, right? Some of those really big ticket items, and then of course the policies and everything else. But those big ticket items, we're just seeing some of them lag, right? Multicultural center, it doesn't even have a budget. We don't even hear anyone talking about it, right? So when we bring it up in these big meetings, some of those get lost, right? So maybe by having certain council sponsor, that could be more effective. And then as what Allegra said, in terms of our liaison, we could possibly use our liaison a lot better, right? So really meeting with our liaison, that might be one of the things we want to do, is meet with our liaison. And as Allegra stated, Anna has said, we kind of say, okay, these are some of the things that we really want you to report back to the town council, right? On these are the things that we want you all to have at the top of your priority list. And, at every meeting, she brings it up and shares that, with the town council. And that's a way to kind of keep it at the forefront of their mind and not let it get lost in the shuffle. So, and I did explain to Anna, I was like, yeah, with the liaison, there's always this, again, mystery around what the liaison can or can't do. You know what I'm saying? So that's the other part, is it's like, let's connect with our liaison, because right now our liaison really just stands in the background listening in, so on and so forth. But maybe we could do more to kind of connect, let her know. Right now we have Hala, and hopefully, it'll continue, with Hala, because she's obviously a great town councilor, to utilize Hala more, right? And more effectively, so that then we can, again, keep our issues at the front of their minds and really push these issues forward. So a lot of food for thought, and really, I think for us, it's how our group can also be strategic. Because me, at the end of the day, it's how can we help our community members, right, who are suffering, who are dealing with these issues, and really at the end of the day are frustrating, right? Because a lot of times I hear them, they come to me and they're like, Deborah, I get it that you all are obviously bringing our issues to the, every month and everything, but we want action. We want these things to get done, not just talked about. We want the multicultural center up and running. We want the youth empowerment center up and running, not just some programming that the town chooses or what have you, but we want the Youth Empowerment Center up and running. We want a fully staffed CRES with additional hours that get dispatch calls. We want a DEI that's fully staffed and has a budget, and so on and so forth, right? So anyway, those were some of the main parts in regards to it. Everell?
So I'm glad that you were able to have this conversation, because I think it was either late last year or early this year. I said, I think we need to look at measurable goals, because we have very big ticket items that are on our standing agenda, and those things will not go away. But to what you just said, that the community is looking to us for action. And we're not going to be able to deliver on those big ticket items right away. But, there are other things that we can do. The whole idea of working with someone and sponsoring a town bylaw or bill, I am very interested in that. I'm willing to put my time in that drafting language, working with people to get it on sponsored town council, because we're talking about CRES, and if you think of this holistically, doing things like that will drive things towards CRES and help CRES be what we want it to be. So, there's certain things that I believe that we're going to be in these meetings forever and a day, having these conversations, because we have to keep pushing to get these things done. But I've always felt that there's other things that we need to add to our agenda, smaller things that are measurable, that people can see, that this committee set these goals and these benchmarks, and they've delivered on these benchmarks. And I truly believe that there are some of those things that we can do and that we should do. So I'm glad that you had this conversation, and you were given a different approach to take with certain things. And I think that may be something that we should add to our upcoming retreat, as to what are some of those things, smaller things that we can do, that the community can see, okay, here is a goal that they set, and here is something that they delivered on. The big things, again, some of those things, well, not some of those things, the big things, they're well beyond our control. They have to do with things that we don't get to sit at that table all the time. Budget concerns, all those big things. And so, are there other things, or quite frankly, are there other things that we can do that helps push those big things to be come to life? So I think I'm glad that we're having this conversation, because I am big proponent that I think we should do some of these things, to Deborah's point, strategically, and have these smaller goals that I think will drive the bigger goals.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, and you're right, Everald. I mean, you definitely got us on that path in terms of thinking about, what are we, what's kind of like our end result, right? And what are we trying to accomplish and what are the goals? And like you said, how can we measure, kind of like our success rate in terms of achieving some of these goals? And I know that I think, right, the retreat really was one of the ways that we were trying to get at some of those, because since at our meetings, right, our meetings, they tend to go lengthy and we only talk about the standard things, never mind like adding anything else, because obviously then we'd be here all night, and we don't have that time, unfortunately. So I think that, yeah, Anna definitely, and we thanked her a lot, for obviously taking her time to talk with us, because that is something, right? Because sometimes when we meet with the town council, it feels almost like an impenetrable wall, as opposed to if we meet with maybe certain town councilors, right? Um, it could be more kind of taking those smaller chunks, and being able to achieve some of the smaller aspects. So I think it would be great for us to kind of put this on the agenda for our retreat, so that we could start really having those types of conversations. And I think too, it would tie in too with the town forums, right? We have these town forums with Crest. We'll get more of a sense too from the community, right? In terms of, okay, what are some of the priorities that you want? What are, some of the things? How are we doing? What else, do you need us to shift this way, that way? So that we're always able to kind of like flex and really be current in terms of what the community is asking us, or and wanting us to do. So I think all of it kind of would work well in terms of what we're thinking about in terms of measurable goals, and then checking it against what the community members want us to do, and then obviously bringing it to our town councilors, those that we can outreach to and we feel will sponsor, some of these things and really be strategic around it. Because yeah, sometimes, like, I know for me, I'll speak for myself, I get really frustrated, sometimes to go to these big meetings, and obviously, happened again this time, where then it's like that motion to shut down our conversation. I mean, it's ridiculous, right? So, not to say that we shouldn't go before. I think, like, yeah, we should go like at least once a year before the whole town council, right? Just as a, hey, this is all the stuff. But there's the other 11 months, right? So if we go once a year before the whole town council, there's the other 11 months. What are we doing during those other 11 months to stay, kind of in there, showing them that it's still a priority what we're talking about. And I think that this would be the way, right? To kind of communicate with other town councilors and make sure we're pushing some of these other goals through. Other thoughts or comments or questions? So Erica, if you're willing to still be kind of our point for the retreat, if you could like add that to that, to our retreat planning agenda. I know we're gonna touch base upon it a little bit later, but that would be great.
And I would agree that I think having a more in-depth discussion at a retreat would be a really good idea for this. I think we could come up with three easily things to try and focus on in moving things forward.
I really like the putting into, our town municipal bylaws, like I didn't to, like certain things that APD don't respond to, because that will go into Crest. So even, again, we're working to get Crest up and running, but if there are things in the bylaws that says, oh, APD won't do this, then the end result of that is it will automatically gets pushed to Crest. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if maybe looking at like the sanctuary city bylaw just as a kind of example of what, framing in terms of, okay, APD doesn't help ICE or whatever, what I haven't read it in a while, but just kind of if that might be a good example for some of the framework of a bylaw structure.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I think both of you brought up some really key points. Yeah, I like both of what you all are talking about. So I think we need to kind of, discuss this further.
Yeah, no, I think I realized I think I was supposed to send out a doodle poll and I don't think that I did that for whoops.
Well, Allegra, you were only running for town council. You didn't have anything to do,
I was only doing
obviously.
that and still sharing this with
Yeah,
you and
exactly.
the other
And
committee that
being a
I sit
mom
on.
and doing and working full time and all
Working
those other
fully.
things.
I,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I,
You were doing nothing.
I was a little busy. So, and I think we were still talking about January and February as potential dates. So I'm going to write it in all caps. Doodle poll. And we liked Saturday mornings as time. Oh,
Saturday mornings 9 to 1, so we actually started at 9, and we were
Oh,
really
it was
good.
nice.
We actually were really good. I think everybody was there by 9 o'clock,
Mhm.
and we
yep.
stopped at 1 o'clock.
Yep. And that worked out well, actually.
Yep. Yep.
So. Yeah, and the thing for this time though, I think obviously the last time it was great in terms of having it be and it was wonderful. It was wonderful retreat in terms of, obviously kind of, getting to know each other more and the team building and everything. And then this one, I think we still do a little bit of that, but go into like these measurable goals and,
Yeah.
action items and things like that, and really do more of the meaty part of work and strategy.
And I think it could be helpful, this is maybe getting too much into it, but to do some like resource mapping of, these are town councilors that we think would be helpful. These are maybe other groups that we could ask to co-support a bylaw if that's something that gives it more credence. I don't know if that's even how that works, but I guess it would depend on if it's like a motion or resolution versus an actual bylaw. Um, but
I
that
think
might be.
I think we can have multiple sponsors for the same bylaw. So,
Mhm.
even work with other, you know, groups in the town that supports Crest. And
Mhm.
then there are strength in numbers. So if we have multiple sponsors outside of town council to say, hey, here is a group that you support who's also sponsoring this bill with CSSJC, you know, let's find people to sign on to it and present it to town council. Yeah.
But I think though too, and I mean, I'll speak for myself because again, like I said, I mean, obviously, I started working with the town through CSWG, but still a lot of things are foggy to me and things like that, right? So I think it would be great to really kind of have a breakdown, right? Like bylaw, what would that achieve? Resolution, what would that achieve? You know what I'm saying? Motion, like just kind of, I think we all need to be on the same page about those things so that then we can, better understand, okay, what are we trying to do here? You know what I'm saying? And what's the most effective way for us to get these things done, you know? So I think that there's also kind of like some just making sure that we all have the same kind of knowledge base in terms of some of those things. So I don't know, who it is and, who we might want to invite to the retreat, maybe to just kind of break it down to us or whatever, that might be something. Um,
I think maybe our existing liaison to say, okay, if we want to update or draft a bylaw, what is the process in town council to do that? You know,
exactly.
so maybe we start with our existing person to come to the retreat. So at least we have someone who we know supports us, gives us
Mhm.
accurate information to say, okay, if this is your intent, this is how you start, this is what you need to do, these are the places that you need to send things to, and so we build a desktop, so to speak, as to how to do things. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea. Yeah, that's who we should invite, actually. That would be awesome. And then, of course, we need to figure out, facilitate. I know we're kind of talking about the retreat, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, that's on the agenda, so we're
That's on the
good.
agenda, so. But like kind of have the facilitator, but then invite Hala to come in and just talk to us about that piece. That would be awesome. Because I don't know if she'd want to take her whole Saturday to kind of join us. So that's why I'm thinking we would just invite her for a certain piece of it.
So Pat had said originally that she'd be interested, and Angelica absolutely said she wanted to continue with us. So we have some options depending on what dates.
Okay. Okay, great.
Good.
And then, well, lastly, too, I think what we want to talk about is also, so we don't kind of leave it to the wayside, is our charge, right? If we want to do anything with it, or if we think it's fine, then that's fine. But we might want to also add that to the agenda.
Yeah, I think I think those kind of go hand in hand in my understanding or kind of conception of it. So I think that's a good thing to put on there as well.
Yeah.
Well, I think also if we look at our charge and say, how do we actually have power behind it, we might get to some bylaws and motions.
Yeah, because actually I've been, some community members have talked to us about that, right? Like that our charge should really be a bylaw in regards to what we're doing. So, be
And
a good
and may
conversation to have.
and maybe that's one of the things that we explore is, how do we get it to be a permanent committee with a town? Like when I sit on the ZBA, when I think about it, the ZBA has authority. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, they're empowered to do, there's a specific bylaw for zoning. The ZBA is empowered to do certain things. So maybe we, look into how do we make this not something that can be terminated by a town manager or without council approval. Because I think to terminate the zoning board of appeals, there's a whole process around that. So maybe that's one of the things we look into is how do we make CSSJC a permanent committee for the town?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because I've heard that before from community members. So I think we're on the right track when we're having these types of discussions.
I think that just thinking about how lively our conversations can get, I think it would be wise to try and kind of have those two big ticket items as our main agenda points, so that we can really dive into them a little bit more. Um, I don't know if there's anything else that people would want to add, or if those two things seem like they would fill 4 hours.
I think it will fill 4 hours. But the other one that I have really thought about is the Youth Empowerment Center. So I don't know if we all think about it the same. Are we thinking that there needs to be something that gets built, or do we, or I do believe that when I look at real estate in this town, there are a lot of spaces available. None of them are going to be 100% perfect in terms of location, but I think there's opportunities where, I mean, my first thought was we moved an entire library from downtown. Yeah. We there is that is a remarkable feat. So at the end of this, that space is going to be available again. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
you know so we started looking at things like that is what can be repurposed. you know I mean, we one of the things too, I know that accessibility is a key issue, but when we think of Ball Lane, the housing community that's being built right now, one of the things that's part of that is they put a bus stop there. So those kind of conversations to be had. Okay, if we find this place that is not easily accessible, how do we make it accessible? you know the goal here is to create a center that is utilized by people. And again, we're not going to find the perfect spot because when something becomes empty, chances are somebody's going to turn it into a condo or an apartment building. So we need to operate under repurposing as opposed to and repurposing and maybe not we're not going to get everything in terms of perfection right away, but okay, what can we do to say we've identified this location? It is not 100% central to where we think could be most operational, but if we do these things, you know, it can be served here. And again, there's nothing to say we can't find a youth empowerment center that is temporary, but at least there is, again, that's a measurable goal. We find something that the youth can utilize, and then we continue to look to see if there is a better suitable place somewhere else. But I think we should, have that conversation too around the Youth Empowerment Center.
Hmm.
Because I
Yeah, I
think,
agree.
yeah, I think if someone doesn't find something and, if we do this, we do the legwork, then we can go before town council and says, hey, we made all these proposals of all these different locations and buildings, and you just said no. Why are you just saying no? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that would be good for us to have that conversation because, yeah, it doesn't have to be anything built. Like you said, it needs to be just finding a location. And even if it's not a perfect one, but at least something that we can get started with. And then we can move to another area at some point or whatever if there was a better place. But we need to start somewhere, which is the more important part of it. But yeah, I think we should have that discussion too. But obviously, Erica, obviously if we speak with any facilitator, of course, we do need to still have a little bit of like an icebreaker and stuff like that, as opposed to just like we get there like, all right, boom. So there needs to be kind of a good way to kind of transition into these discussions.
I'll try to put a draft together from what I just heard because I think it's important for us to agree that's what
Mhm.
direction we want to go into. And then once we do that and once we have a date, I can then talk to a facilitator about, how to do this.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, well, it would be the facilitator and Hala, see if Hala will be available. So, yeah. All right, so it seems like we kind of skipped as an oversight board and we kind of talked about YEC.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this point the Resident Oversight Board has been referred to GOL.
Yeah.
I guess I could be somewhat proactive and try and figure out who's on GOL and just say, hey, could you give us a heads up when you're going to discuss this?
Hmm.
And then again, transparency and understanding steps in the process. If somebody can attend one of those meetings, it would help us have a better sense because again, I don't know that anyone's knocking down our doors to tell us when things are happening. So,
Hmm.
Erica.
I think at the last meeting, Hala actually said that she was going to try to find out when they were going to meet and let us know. So maybe
Oh,
to follow up with her.
excellent.
Do you want me to follow up with her and then also talk to her about that we would like for her to come to our retreat?
Sure.
Give her
Yeah,
a heads
I
up.
think,
Okay,
yeah,
I'll do that.
that'd be great. And then with the Youth Empowerment Center, I mean, I did talk at the town council, we kind of talked ad nauseum about the town manager sending someone that would represent the town and be able to talk about the Youth Empowerment Center. But till this day, he hasn't sent anyone. So, I think it'll be important for us to add Youth Empowerment Center to the agenda because we need to be more strategic about that.
Mhm. Something, wait, it went in my brain and right out the other side. I apologize. Town manager. Oh, that was it. I guess it would be helpful to get an understanding of if they have passed his goals, like set his goals for the year and see what of how the reaffirmed motion to support those 7 things plus getting Chris up on dispatch have made their way or have not made their way into the goals, because I think that's always important.
Mhm.
Because
Do you
again,
know
youth
how is it that we
empowerment.
can, do you know how is it that we can find that out?
I can try and go through previous meeting agendas and information, and I could reach out
Or
to.
can we just ask Carla?
Yeah, I could also just ask Kala or Alicia.
I think we need to use her more
Yeah,
as
I mean,
our
I think that's it,
liaison. You know, that was one of the things we learned from Anna, you know?
right?
Since I'm getting in touch with Hala, should ask her that too.
Sure.
Yeah, just add that to the list. Add that to the list. You know, one-stop shopping.
All right.
Well, can I just add a kudos to the League of Women Voters because they actually submitted very specific goals to be looked at for the town manager, which included all of the areas that that we, as well as the community safety working group, also focused on.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously their report too is great, and hopefully they can come, you know, in the new year,
Mhm.
after the new year to present to us because yeah, it was awesome.
Well, are we ready to move on to our second public comment period? That's
I think
wild.
so.
It's like 8:35, guys. This is amazing.
This is a miracle.
All right, and I see Martha has her hand up. Am I in charge of things? I apologize. Let's see. Okay, yes, I am in charge. All right.
Hi, okay, it's Martha Hanner, District 5. I can't resist making a couple comments on what you've been talking about, if you don't mind here. Yeah, I mean, first, as Erica just mentioned, we did, submit our goals to the GOL for the town manager's goals for next year. And I attended the GOL meeting a couple, 2, 3 weeks ago. Anna is in fact the chair of GOL right now, and she did a great job. And she was getting input. She had a list much longer than what the final list can be, but she included our 3 goals in her, tentative too long list at least. And then I saw that their meeting for this week was canceled, so I don't know when they're going to do their final decision on the goals. But it's the goals under community safety and social justice that are the ones that we're most concerned about. And so one of the things we definitely had was work with the dispatch and the APD for, to get things with Chris. And I'd like to emphasize that is not a one and done thing. Hopefully there'll be something positive by December 31st, but the council has got to get Paul to keep his attention on that for the whole of next year if we're going to be successful. And so again, we need to talk to individual council members and keep stressing that over and over again. And also then we had recommended what the LEAP report recommended, namely an outside independent review of APD policies and protocols. And that's something very distinct from this review that they now have every 3 years with the state of Massachusetts. I mean, they're very proud of that. And, that's really for their individual professionalism and so on. But as Camille was describing, many of their policies and the wording and everything is really out of date and needs some kind of an outside, independent, experienced reviewer. And we recommend LEAP to do it. But anyway, we feel that would be really important to help establish trust. Anyhow, and so then a couple other things I just wanted to say. I am staring on my computer at a nice chart called the budget process. And I think that was presented this fall. And so it has a nice box that says the financial indicators in November, and then a public forum on the 17th, which, people stress the schools over and over and over again. And a couple of us talked about press and all. And I think Allegra, I think you were there, if I recall. Yeah. And then it says December of 2025, the council adopts their budget guidelines. And then there's nothing. The very next box is spring of 2026. There's the JCPC, and May and June, then the finance committee reviews the town manager's budget. See, there's just not public input. And so if any of you know anybody who's on the Charter Review Commission, they're working on their final drafts now. And I think it's important to stress to them what a mess the whole budget process is. And there ought to be some more streamlined way of doing it where there was more input as the process went along. So there's that. And then I really like the idea that the CSSJC has got to be more proactive, decide what your important goals are and then talk with council members. Anna's advice, I think, is very good because we need to convince them as individuals. There are some who just don't understand what CRESS is all about. I wish they would listen to Camille's monthly reports here, but there's much more to do. So good luck with it all. Best wishes for the holidays, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Martha. We appreciate you.
I see one other member of the public. I don't see any other hands. I don't think we've ended this early in a long
Many
time.
months.
So our next meeting, just looking at the schedule, will be January 14th. And I will do the usual call for agenda items by the 7th. And
Well, Larry, no, Martha is still in the.
oh, oops. See, this is why I shouldn't be in charge of technology. So January 14th, 2026, I'll put out the call for agenda items. I will do a doodle poll before then, so we will have a date by then. So I guess it will have to be after the 14th. So I will do that.
Why don't we just, for the safe side, add a few March dates too?
Okay. So mid-January to mid-March.
Yeah, because there's a big vacation week in February, school
And I'm gonna be
vacation
away.
week. So yeah, families, yep, exactly.
Thank you for that reminder. All right, so I will do that. Eric is going to email Hall about everything. And I don't think we have any other specific tasks right now. But if I remember anything, I will reach out via email. And it is 8:42 and we can adjourn this meeting.
So happy holidays to those who
Zoom.
No, it's still recording.
Hi guys. I just wanted to, I guess, ask about any updates on the Youth Empowerment Center again because I did have to like go to the bathroom during that part. So I guess I thought that like because we kind of like you guys adjourned a little early, I thought that like I could ask just about the updates.
Yeah, the long and short of it is nothing. We don't have any further
Okay.
new information.
Yeah,
Thank
and the
you.
thing is, it is obviously key, and we are going to be discussing it during our retreat. It's going to be one of the big agenda items. Actually, Everald brought it up as making sure that we discuss that as a group. So we're adding the youth empowerment because we definitely need to be more strategic because that's one of
Yeah,
the main items that the community wants us to push through. So yeah, we're going to be discussing it.
yeah, of course. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for real this time it's 8:44 and we are adjourning.
Good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
night.
Good night.
Bye.